Hey guys, Justin Conroy here, and today I want to tell you about some of the best credit cards out there for college students. If this is your first time here and you want to learn tips, tricks, and hacks related to personal finance, how to build wealth, and how to better manage your money, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. Now, before I get into the discussion about the credit cards themselves, I do want to take a few minutes and talk about responsible credit card usage while in college, because credit cards can be incredibly dangerous if you're not careful, especially if you don't understand how the minimum payments work or if you don't understand how the interest works. And I've got an entire video about that up here that I'll put a link to. Now, I've got three basic philosophies that I teach people who don't have credit or have bad credit. The first one is that your credit card is not to be used in case of emergency. This is one of the most dangerous mentalities that people get themselves into when they get credit cards. They think, oh, if an emergency happens, I'll just use my credit line on my credit card and swipe the problem away. The problem here is that if you do this pretty much automatically means that you don't have the cash to actually pay for that emergency. And if you don't have the cash to pay for the emergency, you won't be able to pay the bill at the end of the month. And if you can't pay the bill at the end of the month, that's when the interest happens. And interest is what gets people into trouble. Interest is what gets people into debt. And this can be a very, very, very dangerous thing. So your credit card is not to be used in case of emergency. The second philosophy that I teach people is that your credit line is not a short-term loan to go and buy whatever you want. Your credit card really should just be used like a debit card. Your credit card should only be used to purchase things that you could pay cash for anyway. Again, when you use your credit card in terms of a short-term loan to go and buy whatever you want, this is when you get yourself into trouble because you probably don't have the cash to pay it, and that means you're going to pay interest and get yourself into debt. So your credit card is not a short-term loan to buy whatever you want. The third philosophy that I teach people, I've already alluded to, but that is this. When the bill comes and it says minimum payment due, don't be confused by this. This is not the minimum payment. You should put it into your head that the minimum payment is always the statement balance, because paying the statement balance is the only way that you can avoid paying interest, and it's the only way that you can keep yourself out of credit card debt, because that is a dangerous place to be. So what do these philosophies mean to the college student who's never had a credit card before in their entire life? Well, they really point to a set of rules which I'll go over now. First one is treat your card like a debit card. And that's to say, if you can't pay cash for something, you shouldn't put it on your credit card in the first place. Second one, don't use your credit card for things that you wouldn't buy with your debit card. Meaning, you wouldn't hesitate for a second to buy food on your debit card, so that's an okay purchase for your credit card. But you might think twice about buying a $300 jacket with your debit card because that's cash in your bank. Well, if you're having that feeling about your debit card, you should definitely not put it on your credit card. Third, pay off your credit card every single month without exception. And remember, we're talking about the statement balance, not the minimum balance and not the current balance. Although you could pay the current balance if you want, but it's not required to avoid the interest payments. Fourth, pay your bill on time, every time, no exceptions. Don't be late even by a single day. Make sure you can pay your card every time, on time, all the time. Fifth and final, try not to use your card too much at first. If you're a college student and you never had a credit card before, they can get people into a lot of trouble. So it's best to work into things very slowly. Only make a purchase or two that first month, see how things go. Just make sure you don't find yourself in a pit that you can't get out of. All right, now onto that list of credit cards for college students. In my research, I found about 15 credit cards that claim to be good for students in college. Most of them are not too bad, but there are definitely some that stand out more than others. Out of the 15 cards, I'm going to be ignoring those with fees, because who wants to pay fees, especially in college? I'm also going to be ignoring those without cash back, because I believe that if you're going to use a credit card, you should be rewarded for it. So that leaves about 10 left out of the 15, and I'll leave a list of those credit cards right here on the screen so that you can pause the video and look through that at your own leisure if you need to. But let's go ahead and talk about a few that stand out above all the others. Now, the first card I want to talk about is the Petal Visa credit card. This card has one of the highest cashback earning potentials on all types of transactions. Now, they will start you out at 1% cashback when you first get the card, but after 6 months of on-time payments, they'll bump you up to 1.25% cashback. And then after 12 months of on-time payments, they'll bump you up to 1.5% cashback on all types of transactions. Now, this is an unsecured credit card with no annual fees, no late fees, no foreign transaction fees, no fees of really any kind at all, which is great. They claim to have no problem with people with no credit scores. They give you an app that allows you to track your credit score and your purchases, and they report to all the 3 major credit bureaus so that you can start building your credit even when you're in college. The second card I want to talk about is the Discover It Student Cashback Card. Now, this is one of my personal favorite credit cards because it actually gives a higher percent cashback percentage on categories that I like to spend money on. For example, depending on the type of year, you can get up to 5% cashback on things like groceries, dining, gasoline, ride shares, and online shopping. At all other times, you can get 1% cashback on everything else. The other unique thing about this card is that you can actually get a $20 statement credit each year that your GPA is 3.0 or higher, and I think this is one of the only cards that give you this sort of perk. Now, this card also has an intro bonus that will basically match the cashback that you make for the very first year. So if you make $200 in cashback in that first year, it will give you an automatic $200 extra in that first year. Also a pretty unique perk that I haven't seen on any other card. They give you a free credit score tracking app, and there are no fees whatsoever on this card. One of my personal favorites. Now, the last card that I want to talk about out of that list of 10 that made the final cut is the Citi Rewards Student Card. Now, this card isn't necessarily super spectacular by any means, but it is one of the better ones out of the remaining cards that we talked about. They will give you 2% cashback on restaurants and gas stations, up to $1,000 each quarter in money that you spend. They'll give you 1% cashback on everything else. And like the others, they have no fees whatsoever that I could find, and they give you free credit score tracking on their website. So overall, a pretty good card if you aren't able to get the others. Like I said, there are other cards out there if you can't get these, but these were the ones that stood out because of their cashback rewards potential. So if you're in college and you haven't started building your credit yet, I highly recommend that you get one of these cards and start now. Just remember my philosophies. Your credit card is not to be used in case of emergency. Your credit line is not a short-term loan for whatever you want to go buy. And whenever the bill comes, pay the statement balance, whatever you do. If you're smart about how you use your credit lines, you can end up saving tens of thousands of dollars or more over the course of your life. But you've got to be smart and you've got to be disciplined. With that, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future videos, please leave me a note down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell before you leave. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, thank you for your time and support. Have a good one.